Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your reading lesson today. So today, the things you're going to need for your reading lesson are your reader's notebook and your pencil. It'd also be helpful to get out the book that we chose during our book tasting the other day. So if you want to pause the video, give yourself a minute to get those things out as you engage in the lesson, that's fine. If you want to just keep listening and grab it while you're listening, that's okay with me too. Just make sure your headphones are in so it's not disrupting other people. All right, guys? So let's get to it. Today's goal is to understand that people read intensely to grow solid ideas, and readers often reread to see and notice even more. So you guys have to really figure out confusing parts or the beginnings in books and note the important things that you want to talk about later. You have to do the work that the author is asking you to do. And what I mean by that is they may not write it directly, but a lot of the times when you read books like The Tiger Rising and you start to read more chapter books, the author is going to give you hints and clues at things to understand, and you have to do the work to understand those things. They're not going to just tell you every last little thing that happens in the book. All right. So first, let's talk about what it means to read intensely. So reading intensely means that you are paying close attention and you are trying to learn and find out more from the book. You're not just reading it like you're in the doctor's office and you're waiting to go in to see the doctor, right? Or you're not just reading it like you might read a magazine sitting on the couch. You are engaging yourself in the book and you are paying close attention to really understand and make meaning of what it is you're reading at that period of time. So if you look, I've got a few tips of what you can do to read intensely to grow ideas. The first thing is finding a book you want to read, which hopefully you all did that, right? The more you're engaged in the book, the more you enjoy the book, and it's a book you want to read, the more likely you are to read it intensely because you care about the characters and you care about the story. Read it as if you're in the book. Picture like you are there. You are watching the scene like it's a movie. You are a part of the scene, and read it to pay close attention to the details and picture it like you are there with that character. In The Tiger Rising, you're there with Rob, right? Take time to figure out the confusing parts. If you read a page and you didn't understand what happened, reread it, right? Go back and look at it again and say, okay, what didn't I understand the first time that I need to try to look at again? Maybe I'll read it through a second time and figure it out. Maybe I need to go on the dictionary online and I need to look up what a word meant to help me understand what's happening. But you need to try to figure out the confusing parts. You might not always figure them out the first time. You might not know exactly what the author's talking about, but you need to at least do the work to try to figure it out, right? And then you need to write down and take notes about what you want to talk about later. What do you think is going to be important to come up again in the book? What do you think is a possibility of something that's going to happen that you need to pay attention to? Right? So we're going to reread. I'm going to reread the first 2 pages of The Tiger Rising to you. The words are there on the screen if you need them, but I am going to read them out loud. It was my book. And then if you want to listen to it again, you can always skip back in the video, or you can reread it on the screen for yourself. It's up to you. But I'm going to reread the first 2 pages. And it says, that morning, after he discovered the tiger, Rob went and stood under the Kentucky Star Motel sign and waited for the school bus just like it was any other day. The Kentucky Star sign was composed of a yellow neon star that rose and fell over a piece of blue neon in the shape and the state of Kentucky. Rob liked the sign. He harbored a dim but abiding notion that it would bring him good luck. Finding the tiger had been luck. He knew that. He had been out in the woods behind the Kentucky Star Motel, way out in the woods, not really looking for anything, just wandering, hoping that maybe he would get lost or eaten by a bear and not have to go to school ever again. That's when he saw the old Beauchamp gas station building, all boarded up and tumbling down. Next to it, there was a cage, and inside the cage, unbelievably, there was a tiger. A real-life, very large tiger pacing back and forth. He was orange and golden bright. It was like staring at the sun itself, angry and trapped in a cage. It was early morning and it looked like it might rain. It had been raining every day for almost 2 weeks. The sky was gray and the air was thick and still. Fog was hugging the ground. To Rob, it seemed as if the tiger was some magic trick, rising out of the mist. He was so astounded at his discovery, so amazed, that he stood and stared. But for only a minute. He was afraid to look at the tiger for too long, afraid that the tiger would disappear. He stared, and then he turned and ran back into the woods toward the Kentucky Star. And the whole way home, while his brain doubted what he had seen, his heart beat out the truth to him. Tiger, tiger, tiger. That was what Rob thought about as he stood beneath the Kentucky Star sign and waited for the bus. The tiger, he did not think about the rash on his legs, the itchy red blisters that snaked their way into his shoes. His father said that it would be less likely to itch if he didn't think about it. He did not think about his mother. He hadn't thought about her since the morning of the funeral, the morning he couldn't stop crying, the great heaving sobs that made his chest and stomach hurt. His father watching him, standing beside him. He started to cry too. I'm going to stop. All right. And let's take a minute. All right. And think about being intense readers. If you need to reread it, make sure you sit up tall and square, right? Not slump on the floor, doze and drift reading. And if you need to take notes, listen to me read again and write notes in your notebook under the whole group section. You can do that. All right. I want to focus on this idea that beginnings matter. Okay. The author in the beginning is taking the time to introduce you to the character and a little bit about that character to build and build and build throughout the whole book. All right. Thoughtful readers often read the beginning of a book several times, more than once, to read that part intensely, right? We read this book yesterday. I read it to you again today. If you want to listen to it again, it would not be a bad idea to rewind my video a little bit and listen to it again. I want you to remember that authors put things into a book on purpose. This beginning was written very specifically on purpose, right? This author wants you to get a certain few things out of the beginning of this book, but you have to work for it. They put it there. If you need to read it more than once, go back and reread it. All right, go back and reread it. So what are the first few pages revealing to us? All right, you have to do the book work the book is requesting. So I want you to take a minute. I want you to pause this video right now. All right. And well, let me finish. I want you to open your notebooks and then you're going to pause the video and you are going to write a few things the book reveals to you in these first few pages. What are some things you notice about Rob or Rob's situation or anything else in those first couple pages I just read to you? All right. You're going to pause it. And when you're done writing a few things down that you notice, you're going to resume the video and then we'll continue with the lesson. So go ahead and pause it, take a couple minutes and write down in your notebook in the whole group section, what are some things you notice in those first couple pages? All right. So now that you've done and you've written a few things down, let's talk about some of the things I noticed. And I want you to see if any of what you notice matches up with the things I said. All right. One of the first things I noticed is that Rob and the book seem to focus a lot on that Kentucky Star sign, right? That sign that's at the hotel. They talk about it when he's sitting there, that he likes the sign. He talks about how he came back and sat underneath the sign. But the book seems to focus a lot on that Kentucky Star sign. One of the things I picked up is that Rob hates school, right? Rob, for some reason, hates school. We don't know really why yet. We just know that it's not something he likes. But said he'd rather be eaten by a bear than go to school. Rob finds a tiger in the woods, right? He's in a cage, right? And while that seems like an obvious thing, it seems like the book title is The Tiger Rising. He finds the tiger. It's saying all I can think about is the tiger. There's got to be something important with this tiger that's going to continue to happen through the book, right? We don't know yet, but come on. I mean, it seems like it, right? And the last thing I noticed that I think is important to write down and remember for later is that Rob, I think based on the fact that it says he went to the funeral and he hadn't seen his mother, Rob lost his mother and it's just he and his dad. Right? And I think moving forward, all four of those things are going to be integral parts that go together and are very, very important in the story. Right? And if I didn't pay attention now, I might not know that to keep looking for these things, but I want to see as I continue to read, what do we learn more and more about that tiger he finds in the woods? Why is the Kentucky Star so important to Rob? And then, how is the loss of his mother affect his relationship with his dad and how he moves forward? Okay. So as you do this today, your job is to go off and read the first few pages of your book that you picked out on your own. All right. I want you to go to the independent tab in your notebook. That is the, I believe, green tab. Yeah, green tab in your notebook. It says independent. So if you look, I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. When we tab your notebook, this one says independent. You're going to open to that section of your notebook right here, and you're going to label it with the date, right? Tiger Right, or whatever book you're reading, August 18th, and whatever the name of your book is. You're going to put it up here, and then you're going to write down what you notice in the first few pages. I want you to read the first few pages of your book, and I want you to write down what you notice, just like what we did with the Tiger Rising. All right. After you've done that, you're going to go to the Canvas assignment, and I want you to type up what you noticed in your book on Canvas. All right. What did you learn about the story? And it'll say what your job is. Sorry, I mistyped it out. Let me fix that. You're going to talk about what you learned about the story as you read those first few pages on Canvas. And then when that's done, you can move on and work on Lexia. All right. So quick recap. Read the first few pages of your book, write notes in your notebook about what you learned, and then go on to Canvas and complete the assignment. You can either type up what you wrote in your notebook, or you can record a video where you read what you wrote down in your notebook. But one of those two things needs to be submitted on Canvas today. And when it's done, you can move on and work on Lexia. Okay. Hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you for watching the video and working hard on your lesson today. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Bye, guys.